Winners, butt kickers, champions in life. Vincent Rose here, the Fat Killer with H2G Fitness, coming to you from my dining room. And this is my third time trying to record this talk, and I'm pretty sure I know why. I'm getting resistance and retraining and recording it because it's going to help some people. It's going to help you in a big, bad, burly way. I had a friend reach out to me who is doing great things with her life. She's very positive. She's very upbeat. She has a group on Facebook. It's a fitness-based group, and she's helping people achieve their goals, motivating them, inspiring them, and she's not asking for money to do it. It's not monetary based. She's not trying to make money off of people. She's truly trying to help. That's all she wants. She created a group. She's invited people into it. She's wanting to help these people, and she's doing it for no other reason than it's the desire in her heart to help people. She's not asking them for money. She's blessing others for no reason other than the fact that she wants to be a blessing in other people's lives, and she's doing great works. Lily, I'm proud of you. Well, she's getting some resistance, right? And even though she's trying to do a positive thing, negative people are coming at her and spreading negative energy her way. So she reached out to me and said, Vince, here's kind of the situation and what's going on. Here's what's transpired. And, you know, I'm sure you've dealt with this stuff before. Do you got any words of insight? Can you help me some? What's the deal? You know, how do you shake this off and not walk away from it? How do you shake this off and not still encourage others? How do you shake this off and keep going? How do you stay enthused? How do you stay inspired? How do you know it's still worth it? I'm trying to do great things. I'm hitting resistance. What's the deal? The deal is this. Lily, the reason that you're getting resistance is because darkness hates light. What does that mean? If you're in pitch black darkness and you can't see your hand in front of your face, it's just dark, there's nothing, and you strike a match, the light from that little itty bitty match destroys all of the darkness around it. Destroys it. Darkness hates light. Why? It can't coexist in the same place. I don't care how far away you are. Somebody lights that match for miles, you'll be able to see it. It's shining bright. And any time something is shining bright, the darkness is mad. It doesn't like light. It can't coexist with it. You're shining light, but darkness still exists. And darkness is going to try to get you to stop shining your light. But want to know what's cool? Darkness doesn't destroy light. Light destroys darkness. Darkness can't put light out, but light can put darkness out. You got the upper hand. So anytime you start trying to do something positive, anytime you start trying to do something good, anytime you search your heart and you start fulfilling the calling that you have on your life, darkness is going to fight back. But you don't defeat darkness with darkness. You defeat darkness with light. So what I told her is, don't worry about it. You want to know how you bring life to something? You talk about it. You want to know how you bring life to something? You give it energy. You want to know how you bring light to something? You put mental energy towards it. You want to know how you bring death to something? You don't say a word about it. Because time heals all things, and if you ain't talking about it, eventually it's just going to be something that happened back there. You don't spend any mental energy towards it. You just, it's water off of a duck's back. You don't worry about it. You don't fight darkness with darkness. You fight darkness with light. How do you know you're on the right path? Well, you start shining your light, and darkness is going to start trying to come against you. When you hit resistance, that's the enemy attacking you. Literally. Why? It wants to put out your light. But if you stand strong, and if you're grounded in your faith, and if you keep shining your light bright, regardless of what type of hell tries to come against you, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. The enemy is literally ineffective, useless, 100% ineffective at being able to control anything in your life. He can try, and if you're weak, and if you're not grounded, and if you're not putting good stuff in your mind and your heart, yeah, they can win. But if you're getting filled up with the good stuff here and here, and you got a solid relationship with your maker, you can do all things through him who strengthens you, and greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. Mark, I appreciate you, brother. I have a faith, right? I think it's pretty obvious over the last 3 weeks that I'm being pretty vocal about it. This was not always the case. I grew up, I was exposed to religion, and it turned me off. And for a long time, I was used for darkness, and I was a player on their field. If you would have met Vincent Rose in his teenage years, or very, very, very young 20s, I would have influenced you. Why? I'm a very influential person. Why? Because God gave that to me. It's a gift. It's not me boasting, and it's not me taking credit for it. He gave that to me. I have the ability to influence people. It's a talent that he sewed into me, designed into me when he created me. I can persuade people to do things. Well, for a long time, I was being used by the enemy and to do his works. Why? I didn't have a solid faith. But once upon a time, I was 14 years old. There was a friend of mine named David Ards who invited me to a youth thing on a Wednesday night. And there was a man that was up there. We played basketball, we played tag, we had a fun time, we had a blast. But at the end of that deal, they said, hey, everybody come here in this room. And they talked for about 20 minutes. And a guy talked about Jesus. And he gave his testimony, and he said, if you don't have a personal relationship with him, I'm going to give you the opportunity to come forth. It's called an altar call. It's a chance to get saved. The most important conversation that you could ever have with somebody is where they're going to spend their eternity. Because I'm going to give you a tip. You're not a body that happens to have a soul. You are a soul that happens to have a body. This is temporary. This doesn't stand the test of times. Your spirit lives forever. And where your spirit spends eternity is really important, because eternity is a very long time. I stood up. I met Jesus that day. But the very next day, there was no manifestation in my life. When I was a teen, I did a lot of recreational partying. And I'll just put it under the blanket of I experimented with a lot of things I should not have. And I was doing it the very next day after the altar call. 2 months later, my buddy, David, who invited me to this thing, was also experimenting with stuff. It didn't go too well. I was supposed to be hanging out with him in 30 minutes. I was supposed to meet him where he was at. What happened the 30 minutes before I got there is that point blank, he got shot in his chest with a shotgun. I don't know if it was the adrenaline in his body or what, but David stood back up after getting shot point blank and took off running. And then the second shot hit him in the back. And my buddy David died. His father showed up. He was still alive. He was a strong kid. And he took his last breath in his father's arms. What a tremendous thing for a father to have to experience. I continue my journey in my teens. I keep partying. I ain't plugged into anything positive. I watched friend after friend after friend after friend get locked up and go to prison, and others died. And the ones that didn't, their lives wasn't anything that you wanted to live. I used to show up to people's houses to get these recreational things I was partying with, and when you opened the door, they opened the door. They held a gun to your head. They made you sit on a seat, get what you came for, point blank the entire time, and then you would leave. That used to be my life. Fast forward, 21, 22 years old, I joined the military. In the military, you can't party recreationally because you get drug tests. But I could drink alcohol. And I did. And I did it 7 days a week. 7 days a week. I started off my morning that way. Vodka. Cheap vodka. You can buy a big thing of vodka for like $7-8. I'd keep it in the freezer, and in the morning, I wouldn't even mix it with anything. I would just, time to go to work. One day, I'm walking around an event, and there's a gentleman that approaches me out of nowhere and says, "Hey, you work out?" "Yeah, I work out." "Cool. Where at?" "Here." "What kind of work you do?" "This." "Well, let me tell you something, buddy. I work with a nutrition team here locally, and we're always looking for more people to help rep. You ever keep your options open to creating extra income?" And he shook my hand and said, "My name's Lonnie." And I grabbed his hand and I said, "Hey man, I'm Vince." And I partnered up with this guy. He plugged me into a team of believers. 6 weeks later, there was a conference in Raleigh, North Carolina, 5 hours away from me. But he said, "You need to be there," so I went. Friday night, I heard speaker after speaker after speaker, and I heard men and women say things that I've never heard in my entire life come out of another person's mouth. Most inspiring words ever. And after every talk, I went, "That's the most incredible thing I've ever heard in my life. I've never been so inspired. I've never been so motivated. I've never been so excited about my future, and I can't wait till I get back Sunday night so I can get drunk." Next speaker came up. "Man, that was so awesome. This is great. I can't believe I'm here. This is amazing. I'm going to make my dreams come true. I can't wait to get back Sunday night so I can get drunk." All Friday night. There was a Saturday morning session. There was a Saturday evening session. And that was the convo in my mind the entire time. I didn't get up for one potty break. I stayed in my seat and I listened to every speaker, and every word they said was sown into my heart. I remember every talk like it was yesterday. In the evening, after the Saturday night session was closing, they said, "Well, we know that a lot of you are in from out of town, different states, and so we know that you don't have the opportunity to plug into your church. I'm going to give you an optional Christian denominational service tomorrow morning, and if you want to show up, show up." There was 25,000 people in that stadium whenever he gave that invitation. Guess how many showed up Sunday morning? 25,000 people. The guy that spoke in the morning was the guy that closed Saturday night. He had 50,000 people on his team. 25,000 were able to make it to the conference. I show up Sunday morning. This man tells his testimony, and then he tells Jesus's. And he does an altar call. And I watched 2,000 people get out of their seats and go to the podium. And everything in me was saying, join them. But everything in my head was going, I did this before. I did it when I was 14 years old, so check the box. It's off my list. I've been there. I've done that. He waits about 5 minutes. He says again, if anybody feels that they need to come forward, come forward. Another 1,000 people went up. There's 3,000 people that are about to meet Jesus. Imagine that. Everything in me was going, get up. My mind was going, no. This happened about 3 times. He gave the invite. And yeah, I just felt I needed to go, but I wasn't going. And he said, I'm going to give this one invitation one last time, because all of these people have been standing here for 15 minutes and I respect their time. So we're closing out. This is your last chance. But let me tell you something. If you feel like you got the weight of the world on your shoulders, pressing you down into that chair, that is the enemy. That is Satan. And you need to stand up and kick him in his toothless mouth and come and get what's coming to you. Because if you're not 100% sure where you're going to spend eternity, you are 100% unsure. When he said that, I stood up. And I started leaking out of every hole in my head. I was crying, I was snotting, all that. And I went forward. Came home that Sunday evening. I didn't get drunk. It's all I wanted to do all weekend was get drunk. But I'm around a bunch of people that don't party, so I couldn't get drunk. But I didn't drink Sunday night. I was too motivated, pumped, inspired, this, that, and the other. I had the vodka and the wine in my barracks.